Hi, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how you install or upgrade XPEnology on ESXi. I'm going to use version 5.2-5592.2, but the instructions should be the same for previous and later versions. I'm going to assume that you already have ESXi 5 or later installed, so if you don't, take a look at my blog post on how to install that first. If you're upgrading from an earlier version of XPEnology, I highly recommend that you back up all your personal and important files, just to be sure. Apart from that, I also recommend that you go to the control panel, go to Update and Restore, Configuration Backup, and create a backup of your configuration. This way you will have a complete backup of all your users, groups, shared folders and file services and so on. So if anything happens or the DSM settings get reset, you are able to restore from that configuration. So the next thing you should do is head over to the package center, and if you have any packages here that have taken you a lot of time to configure, you should probably take a backup of these as well. The way you do that is to go to the control panel. You have to enable the advanced mode if you haven't already. Go to terminal and enable SSH service. This way you can log into the server using PuTTY or some other SSH client. You write in your IP address and log in with root as username and your ordinary password. Once you've done that, you can do cd volume1, which will change the directory into your current volume. So the easiest way of getting a backup of all your packages is just to do a zip -r appstore.zip, for example, at appstore. And this will probably take a while if you have a lot of packages, but once it's done, you will have a appstore.zip file. So I have a shared folder called demo. So the easiest way of getting hold of this zip file is to do a move appstore.zip demo / and I can go back to file station and download this file. So before upgrading, I highly recommend you to do this, so you're better safe than sorry. Preparing the boot image isn't too difficult, but you will need 2 applications and 2 files in order to be able to do this. The first application you need is OSFmount, used for opening the img file and changing its parameters. You will also need Starwind V2V image converter in order to create a VMDK file from this, so ESXi can read it. I highly recommend to install Notepad++ because it's a very good editor. And you will also need the XPEnoboot image and the Synology Excel sheet for creating a valid serial and MAC address. The link to all of these are in the description, so you shouldn't have any problems finding them. The first thing you should do is to head over to the XPEnology forum. Here you can see the announcement that the latest version currently available is 56.44.1. I highly recommend that you always start off with reading the changelog, because even though this is the latest version, it has known iSCSI issues. And since I'm highly depending on iSCSI support, this is not the latest version that I can run. So in this case, I will be using 55.92.1. Go to the download link and download the img version. Oops, the img version of the boot image. I've already done that, so I will continue from there. Start OSFmount and say mount new, and then browse to the image file you just downloaded. Let's see. There it is. Open. We want to edit the parameters that's stored on the partition 0. So you select the partition 0, press OK. And then it's also important to uncheck read-only drive. If not, we can't make any changes to the image. Press OK. And now if you go to this PC or my computer, you should see another drive appeared. Open it up and you will see syslinux.cfg, which is a file we are going to make changes to. Right click and say edit with notepad, or open it in your favorite text editor. And here are all the boot parameters for XPEnology, debug and install. The reason why we want to change this is because the image as a default comes with a fixed serial number and no MAC address assigned. So the biggest drawback of this is that some features such as quick connect and maybe also high availability will not work unless you change this. And this is where the Excel cheat comes in. It's a really nice serial generator basically. So every time you open it, it will create a unique serial number. So the only thing you have to do is basically copy it and replace all instances of the current serial number. Oops. There you go. The other thing you want is to set a MAC address. So you copy this MAC address over here, and then you append MAC1 equals and remove the dashes from there. There you go. If you have multiple network adapters, you may also add them as MAC2, MAC3, etc. So it's important to not create a new line in here. Just continue adding all the parameters and remember the space in between. The last thing we are going to change is to add rmod equals eta underscore pics. What this command does is to disable all IDE drives. So only SCSI or SATA drives will show up. This is very important, or else your boot image will get overwritten once you install XPEnology. So, like the other commands, we are just copying it on all the other lines. So in order to recap, but the only thing we have done is to change the serial number and the MAC address from the Excel spreadsheet and add rmod equals eta underscore pics for disabling IDE drives. Then you save the file and close it. Bring OSF mount up again. Be sure to have closed all the other windows using this file and click dismount. Sometimes, even though you have closed all the settings, it won't dismount your image, so still click yes and close this. So we are almost done. The only thing we have to do now is to convert the image into a VMDK file, which ESXi wants to can read. Click Starwind. There you go. Click next. Now we have to browse to the image file. Click next. Here it's important that you choose VMware pre-allocated image because we don't want the image to grow over time. Click next. Another important step here is that you choose the IDE virtual disk type. As mentioned, we added rmod eta pics in order to hide IDE drives, and this should be the only IDE drive you connect to the virtual machine. Click next and choose a place where you want to export or save the files. Click next and you're done. Now you should have two files that we will use in the next section. Creating a virtual machine for XPEnology is pretty much the same as creating a virtual machine for any other operating system. We start off by creating a new virtual machine. We select the custom configuration type. We give the virtual machine a name. We set the location. The virtual machine number version you don't have to worry about. Then you select Linux as a guest operating system and set it to other 2.6 64-bit. The number of cores per virtual sockets you don't actually have to change, but depending on your needs, and if you want, for example, to run Plex, you might have some performance benefits of setting this to 2. Regarding the memory size, this also highly depends on what you intend to do. If you only want to use your XPEnology to as a file server, and maybe install a few packages, 2 GB should be more than enough. If you, however, intend to sync a lot of data to CrashPlan or another cloud-based service, then you should calculate about 1 GB per terabyte you intend to sync. The network and SCSI controller you don't have to change, just leave them as they are. Next, we don't want to create a disk because we already did that. And we want to edit the virtual machine settings before completion. We don't need the CD, DVD or floppy hardware, so we remove those. And I also recommend to set a manual MAC address to the same MAC address as you specified in the boot image. So the next step, we can click OK first. And the next step is to actually upload your boot image. So we go to Configuration, Storage, select your data store, navigate to your virtual machine, upload, and you have to upload both files. Once both files are uploaded, you will see that they are merged into a VMDK file, which is our boot image. We edit our settings once more, click Add, Hard Disk, Existing Virtual Disk. We browse yet again to our virtual machine. Next, here it's important to note that we are adding this as an IDE drive. And the modification we did to the boot image, adding rmod eta_pix to the boot variables, will make this drive invisible, so it won't get overwritten when we install XPEnology, and it won't show up in the list of hard drives attached to this virtual machine once we have Synology up and running. So we click Next again and finish. At this point, the virtual machine is configured. However, we don't have added any actual hard drives to store our files on. So there are 2 ways of doing this. If this virtual machine is just for testing, I recommend to click Add, Hard Disk, create a new virtual disk, and create a new virtual disk here with, for example, 20 gigabytes or more disk space. If you create a virtual disk which is too small, you will get an error when trying to create a volume. And yeah, you can hit Next. And it's very important to add this as a SCSI, as explained before. Finish. And this hard disk will actually be visible now in the Synology DSM. However, as I said before, this is not a good way of doing it. I only do this for testing because you will break the smart, so you won't be notified of DSM if a hard disk is failing. or has failed. So the best solution is to go over to configuration again, advanced settings, and add your controller for SATA or SCSI to the list of path-through devices. What I've done here is I have LSI Logic controller board with a PCI device, which has 16 drives connected to it. Once I've configured it for pass-through mode, you can go back to the virtual machine, edit settings, click add, PCI device, and select the device here, and click next and finish. That way, all the hard drives attached to that controller will show up in XPEnology, which is much better than adding virtual disks. But for now I click OK. I open the console and we can start the installation. So we hit run. Once it's started, we go down to install/upgrade. And we will have to wait for a couple of seconds in order to let it boot. Once it's booted, we can go to find.xpenology.com. And it will search for all the XPEnology devices on the network. There's my first demo, and there's the fresh new XPEnology virtual machine we just set up. Hit connect. Setup. Here it's very important that you don't click the install now button, as it will install the latest DSM version. So as you may remember, we used the boot image is tied to an exact version of XPEnology DSM. So what we want to do here is do a manual install, browse, and we go down and select the DSM 5592 PAT, which is the same as the boot image version. You should never mix the boot image version and the PAT file version, but again, go back to the XPEnology.com forum and see what people say about updates. We select this and click install. We will be asked to confirm that we actually intend to format one hard drive. So if you have done everything correctly, this number should represent the number of hard drive that you have connected to your system. As you remember, I've only added one hard drive. So this is correct. I click OK, and it will install. Once installation is complete, we can start with creating our administrative account. Since updating should be done with great care, we do not want to let's see. There you go. We don't want to install the latest versions automatically. We do not want to install the updates automatically, but the best thing we can do here is to only let it check on Sundays or once a week and tell us that updates are available. But we still want to be able to tell which updates are actually installed and not. Hit next. Here you can create a quick connect ID, since we have a valid serial and MAC address. But for this demo, I'm not going to do this, so I'm going to skip this step and go. And now we are all set. We have XPEnology running. So I can go to Storage Manager. And see that the system is healthy with my 20 gigabyte hard disk showing up. And this is pretty much the way you install XPEnology. The only word of advice is that be really careful about installing updates. As you can see, I have one update currently available. And while it's safe, normally it's safe to update to smaller updates like 5592 update 1, you should stick with the same version as the boot image is designed for. So in this case it's 5592 and update 1, unless you trust the community and you see a lot of people saying that a given update works, you can feel free to update. However, I would never update from using this download button. Always get the copy of the PAT file and select manual DSM update, so you know which version of the update is installed. Thank you for watching this video. If you are interested in more on XPEnology, please like this video and I will consider making more. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks and see you guys next time.